Let's talk about one of the biggest puzzles in business today. How do massive companies manage all their people? Not just in one office, but across dozens of different countries, cultures, and legal systems. It's a huge challenge, and today we're going to break down exactly how they try to solve it.
I mean, really think about that for a second. How on earth does one company get teams in Tokyo, Berlin, and Sao Paulo all on the same page? We're not just talking about dealing with different time zones, we're talking about entirely different worlds. And that's the puzzle we're piecing together right now.
So where did this whole puzzle even come from? Well, the truth is, international business on the scale we see today is, well, it's pretty new. And its explosive growth created this whole new set of human resource challenges that, honestly, nobody really saw coming.
And the speed of this change was just staggering. Right after World War II, the US was basically the only economic powerhouse left standing. But that dominance didn't last forever. Within just a couple of decades, everything changed. By the 90s, if your company wasn't thinking globally, you were already falling behind. This massive shift made figuring out international HR not just a nice-to-have, it became a matter of corporate survival.
Okay, so what really makes managing people across borders so tricky? It all starts with the biggest hurdle, one that's powerful but often totally invisible: culture.
Think of culture as the invisible software running in the background of every single society. It tells you everything: how to greet a coworker, how to negotiate a deal, everything. And for a business, ignoring these cultural differences, well, it's like trying to run an Apple program on a Windows computer. It's just not going to work.
Let's get specific. Take power distance, an idea from the famous researcher Geert Hofstede. In a high power distance culture, the boss is the boss, period. Their decisions are not questioned. But in a low power distance culture, you're actually encouraged to challenge ideas, even your managers. You can already imagine the chaos when a manager from one culture gets dropped into the other, right?
And that leads to another huge one: individualism versus collectivism. How do you motivate your team? With individual bonuses or with group rewards? In a really individualistic culture like the US, a personal bonus could be a huge motivator. But try that in a collectivist culture like Japan, and it might actually be seen as divisive and insulting. The big takeaway here is that one size absolutely does not fit all.
But as if navigating all that cultural stuff wasn't hard enough, companies also have to deal with the cold, hard rules set by governments. Every single country has its own political and legal system, and those systems can totally change the way you have to do business.
One of the most common tools a government uses is a tariff. Just think of it as an entry tax for any goods you want to bring into the country. The whole point is to make foreign products more expensive to help out local companies. For a global business, a new tariff popping up overnight can completely wreck its supply chain and pricing.
And then you've got quotas. Now, this isn't a tax, it's a hard limit. A country might just say, that's it. We're only allowing 10,000 cars from your country this year. Once that number's hit, the door slams shut. Both tariffs and quotas are these massive levers that businesses have to keep a constant eye on.
Okay, so the challenges are obviously huge. How do the successful companies actually do it? Well, they don't just wing it. They develop a specific playbook, a strategy for their international HR. So let's open it up and see what's inside.
When it comes to deciding who runs the show in another country, there are basically three main approaches. First, you've got the ethnocentric model. The philosophy here is the head office knows best. You send your own managers from the home country to keep control and maintain the corporate culture. The downside? Local talent gets frustrated. Then there's the polycentric model, which is all about when in Rome. You hire local managers who know the market inside and out. That's great for adapting, but you risk each office becoming its own little island. And finally, you have the geocentric model. This is the dream. The philosophy is the best person wins, period. It doesn't matter where you're from. This creates a truly global company, but it's also way more complex and expensive to pull off.
And what about getting into a new country in the first place? Well, think of it like climbing a ladder of commitment. The first, easiest rung is just exporting, selling what you make at home to people abroad. If that works out, maybe you climb to the next rung, licensing. You let a local company make and sell your product for you. Feeling braver? The next step is a joint venture, where you partner up with another firm. And the very top of the ladder? That's direct foreign investment. You go all in and build or buy your own facilities there. Each step up means more risk, but it also means way more potential reward.
Now let's zoom in. Forget the corporate strategy for a minute and think about the actual person who has to pack up their entire life and move to another country for the company. This is the expatriate's journey.
This is one of the most important decisions an international company can make.
And it is not as simple as just picking your top performer, because the skills that make someone a star at home, well, they don't always translate when you're thousands of miles away.
So the ideal person is kind of like a triple threat. First, of course, they need managerial competence. They have to be good at their job. That's a given. But just as important are language skills, and this is the big one, adaptability. How do they handle confusion? Can they bounce back when they inevitably misunderstand something about the culture? These are the questions that really matter.
You know, for a long time, the way we measured success for these assignments was pretty simple. Did the person come home early? If they stuck it out for their full 2 years, hey, mission accomplished. But that's a really low bar. The modern way of thinking is so much smarter. It asks, did they actually hit their strategic goals? Did they successfully transfer knowledge to the local team and, just as important, bring new knowledge back home?
And this brings us to a really tough reality. A lot of these international assignments fail. And the number one reason has nothing to do with job skills. It's the human element. It's the manager, or very often their spouse and family, simply being unable to adjust to the stress and the culture shock of living in a new country.
So if we pull all of this together, what's the one thing that really makes or breaks success in this global people puzzle? It's not just about finishing your time there. It's about something much deeper.
This quote really nails it. The true yardstick for success is the knowledge that gets transferred. The entire point of sending a person across the world is to build a bridge so that knowledge, ideas, and skills can travel across it in both directions. That is the real return on investment.
And that leaves us with one final question to chew on. In a world where remote work is becoming totally normal, where we can connect with anyone, anywhere, what does that mean for the traditional expatriate? Will companies send fewer people abroad, or will the very nature of what it means to be an expat just change? That's the next big piece of the global people puzzle.